Hey everyone, I'm Mike Del Prete, and you're listening to Context, the podcast where we're talking to real estate industry leaders about what's changing in the world of real estate. So my guest today is Dan Duffy, CEO of United Real Estate Group. Hey Dan, welcome.
Hey Mike, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, a pleasure on a beautiful day here in Boulder.
Stunning.
So let's just jump right in and start with United Real Estate Group is, according to Real Trends, last year in 2022, it was the number 7 brokerage in terms of transaction volume, I believe. 50,000 transactions, 20 billion in sales volume. But it's a brokerage very few people have heard about. Is that on purpose?
It was for a long time. And actually, if you look at the overall group, we did about 90,000 transactions. So there's quite a bit that isn't in that number. That's just our company operated locations that made the ranking. So those are the ones that we have, 50% or more ownership in.
Okay.
So we have a franchise network, a couple of them actually under 2 different brands. And we operate the nation's largest network of auctioneers. We have a technology company, software development here and in North Africa and Tunisia.
So give us the United story. For the listeners, I'm guessing 9 out of 10 listeners have probably not heard about United or know the details. So what is the United story?
Yeah, so the initial platform was based on a legacy business that was founded in 1925 by a guy named Roscoe Chamberlain. And if he was alive today, he would be like the Bill Gates of real estate. He's brilliant. His writings in the 30s were incredible. He built really what was at one point in the early 70s the largest real estate company in the country, with 600 wholly owned offices, all spanning coast to coast, specializing in properties where you can see the stars of all property types. So myself and a couple of my prior investors bought the company in 2006. And then we launched a number of other companies. We launched an auction division. So we quickly became the largest auction services company in the United States. We launched a marketing company to support the auction business and the traditional business. And then in 2011, and really in earnest in 2013, we started United Real Estate, which is the flat fee brokerage that is getting most of the press today. And to your point earlier, we did intentionally stay off radar. We didn't take very many media. We didn't push out any PR or anything because we wanted to make sure we developed the model correctly in private. As private as we could be. And then more recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, we started letting the cat out of the bag.
And just in terms of scale, about how many agents?
This year, we're right now at a little under 23,000.
Okay.
And by the end of the year, with what's in the pipeline, we will be just a bit north of 25,000.
Right. And in a lot of my research that I've recently done, United is one of those 5 low-fee brokers that keeps growing.
Yeah.
Right. Down market, you're still attracting agents. Down market, still overperforming the market in terms of transaction growth.
Yeah. And as speculated, and then the data proved it. If you take a look in 07 to 13, when the last market downturn happened, and look at some of the predecessor companies that we've since merged with that were in existence for years prior to the 07 market adjustment, you saw 2 things happen. And the data supports it in 07 to 13 when the market kind of somewhat fully recovered, quote unquote. You saw transactions per agent decline across the industry. You saw overall transactions decline and stay suppressed for a while. But in each of the predecessor companies that had this model during that downturn, they saw a rapid acceleration of market share capture through agent migration to the model where people keep the vast majority of what they earn, and they pay a flat fee.
So what's driving the growth of United? Is that it?
It's that. It's a really well articulated set of systems, mentorship, coaching around how to properly recruit to a targeted cohort of agents. Mm-hmm. And we're really good at it, and we share that information. And it's really not us at the parent company. It's all of these fantastic entrepreneurs that have joined us. We learn from each and every one of them. The CEOs of these businesses are they're studs and studettes. I think that's the feminine. I don't know, but they're incredible. Like if you look at Philip Cantrell, you look at Eric Pearson, Ray Rivera down in Jacksonville, had a traditional model and converted to this model because he saw the writing on the wall. He was losing agents. He had an incredible stout value proposition, full service brokerage, but realized he needed to have a different comp plan that the agents are more attracted to, in addition to keeping all of those services in place. So we've converted traditional firms to this model, which is fun. And you see an immediate turnaround of their growth, their market share capture. Agents that had left came back and new agents discovered them, teams discovered them and said, wow, the support's incredible, the technology's strong, and I want to be part of it.
For the agents that are joining, could you kind of throw them all in a bucket and describe them or generalize what type of agent is joining?
No, and the fancy pants MBA term is cohorts, right? So I love when people throw out all these terms.
Or personas. You can talk about personas.
Yeah. The case studies, but the cohort, we see multiple cohorts, as you'd expect. We have programs and training, education, development, which we refer to as obviously TED. And there's somebody that's listening to this right now, and he knows who he is, who's going to crack up that I just said that. But anyway, we call it training, education, development. Our programs are set up for basically across different cohorts of agents. So if you're a brand new agent, even pre-licensed, we have programs to help you launch your career. And so we have 22 courses that were proprietarily built and delivered for newer agents or people that want to relaunch their business. And then we have Connect, we have SOAR, and each one of those is directed to a different cohort or group. If you're a team leader and you want to build a bigger team, we have a program for that. And we have, most importantly, of mentorship and collaboration amongst other team leaders that share best practices. And we're constantly digesting and ingesting those and then putting them back to everybody through our LMS system or learning management system.
And so before we hit record, we were talking about your acquisition strategy, this roll-up strategy. So tell us about that and how it's different than what you've seen in the brokerage world.
Yeah, I guess in two ways, and we talked about this briefly. I've been blessed to be part of about 350 M&A deals in my career, going back to Ernst & Young in Chicago in all different market segments, technology, manufacturing, business services. And I think the biggest difference, and I think it shows in the results, is there's a term of trade that says, when you do a merger or you do an acquisition, there's going to be breakage. And I was once asked this on a panel in Colorado with a few folks that were running the M&A strategy for to be unnamed companies. And the question was, well, how many agents do you lose after you do one of these deals? And the first person answered plus or minus 12 to 15. The second one agreed. And it came to us, and there were two of the companies that we had done deals with in the room. And I said, none, zero. We factor in zero breakage because we don't lose agents when we do a deal. We're very careful in our selection of brokers to become part of the network. We make sure there's a cultural fit. We make certain that there's strategic and tactical reasons why they're a good fit. And we do a tremendous amount of due diligence. And when they get through that, the lead up to the push button ready moment, when we announce it to the agents, to the leadership team, the expanded leadership team, the agents, the market, the co-broke market, the national market, everything, there's 152 steps in that process. The pre-merger integration is it's more important than the day of. And then the post-merger integration is all planned out, very, very collaborative. And that process is fundamentally different. And there's another way it's different. Is historically in this space, there was valuations and consolidation happened, and they would use industry-specific data, KPIs to drive valuation and price a company. And a lot of it had to do with the commission structure, right? They were in a traditional split, we're a flat fee. So we tend to look at more classic metrics, which is how much EBITDA does the business generate? Is it accretive to us? Is there cash to reinvest in the business? And we value it based on classic internal rate of return and multiple of invested capital metrics and safety of margin. We do extensive modeling, to make certain we have a center cut. We have a worst case scenario if the market does this, market does that. And we set expectations very, very modestly so that we know that we're achieving our hurdle rates. We want to make sure there's a good return on that capital. But most importantly, we want to make certain that the business that we're merging with thrives afterwards. And that's been the case in every single one of our deals. We don't lose agents. People are happy. Entrepreneurs that honestly have already gotten all their money from us, not only, who said in advance, hey, I'm reaching retirement age and I'm going to hit the road after 2 years. They stick around and they're saying, I'm having a blast, and they're playing national roles for us, and it's really fun.
So what would you say the top three attributes are of the type of brokerage that you would go out and try to acquire?
Well, number one, we love it when they have our model. That's we can help them even when they have our model and they've scaled to 1,000 or 1,500 agents and they're doing quite well, or we honestly wouldn't be in conversations with them. They're the leading player in that local geography. We love it when they have our model, but most importantly, we're looking for the folks that run it and their culture. And I've listened to a number of your podcasts, and a lot of stuff is always said about culture. And I had a chairman of the board of another company that this woman told me one time that, and she's brilliant. And she said, well, culture is what you do when no one's watching.
Yeah.
And you're proud of your actions against, guiding principles and values. And there's a lot said about culture, but when you have massive layoffs and you have other things that are culturally incongruent, in other words, we attempt every day to be culturally congruent. So our values and guiding principles are supportive of the agent is our North Star, and we bust our butts every day at the broker level and at the national level, the marketing team, the technology team, to make certain that they can have a good outcome and they can better their lives and the lives of their family and reach their objectives. And things like overstaffing and then cutting costs and then doing this and these huge vacillations, I believe, are demonstrative of inconsistent incongruencies with the core culture. I mean, you can't say certain words and then do those kind of things. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I guess I am a little bit, but that's okay, because I think we're all in this to get better, right? And so when the market downturn hit, perfect cultural response for our company, we literally did not terminate a single person. If anything, we have in fact hired people since the market started to adjust. We made additional investments. And those investments, even with the market contracting, and especially with the market contracting, are consistent with our core values and guiding principles. And I know I go to bed every night, and this goes back quite a ways. When I was a younger buck, in my early 30s, and I was CEO of a technology company, I made a lot of mistakes. I have scar tissue. I'm very battle hardened. I mean, we bought 36 companies in my last business, created the world's largest Microsoft systems integration and vertical software development company. And I was, quite frankly, a different person. Let's just say, I think that I've learned over the years I really aspire every day to be a servant leader. And that's probably overused. It's one of those cliche things to say. But if we have to leave money on the table and we have to make investments to support, our guiding principles and values, we're going to do it. And I think that's evidence of the way we operate. No company's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. And I'm sure there's some things that we wish we would have done differently. But I can tell you one thing's for damn certain. Every strategy that we roll out, everything is measured against a McKinsey matrix with attribute grid. And that process of determining, it's always illuminated by, is this good for our agents? Even if it results in us having to spend a few more bucks and giving up a point or two of margin, we're okay with that.
So it sounds like you, as a person, have learned and changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
And you've been in real estate since 2006?
2006, yes.
2006? What's something you've learned about the industry that you wish you knew back then?
What's interesting? I tend to do a lot of due diligence before I do something. And my whole career has been in centralized business services. That's kind of the common thread. I was at Ernst & Young for 10 years doing strategy consulting, M&A work, sell side and buy side due diligence, all those with a heavy bent on, and strategy consulting with a heavy bent on financial transactions, whether or not Harley Davidson should buy BMW motorcycle from the family and then rationalize their distribution channels, plus. That's kind of where the background is. But I think the one thing that I believe we nailed coming in, and I think it's still true today, there was a ton of opportunity to be positively disruptive. And, there's a lot going on in the marketplace right now. And, of course, it's not ever a good idea to espouse your opinions about things. You're going to let the process run. So I'm not going to do that here. But I can tell you one thing, that if there's a poster child for being disruptive to the status quo, decoupling from commissions, whatever they might be. I know you know this, but our model, an agent pays us a flat fee, whether their commission is 0% or 50%, or whether it's $1 or $500,000, they pay us a flat fee. That's the vast majority of our transactions are that. We do have a few exceptions in the kit. But I think that looking at it from the outside in, there was an opportunity to apply technology, and I came from technology space. But I was very, very, very deferent, even early on. Listen to the agents, listen to the brokers. What do you need? How do you do work? We did, workflow studies. For a year and a half, I visited 90 offices all over the U.S., and it was a blast, ate pie in Mississippi and whatever it was. It was great visiting these rural real estate companies. It was awesome. And I got to know them, and I realized, okay, I think we can help them. And we quietly just started listening to them and then helping them make their businesses more efficient, helping them be more competitive. And we've continued to do that to this day. So I think the observation was, I believe that the team that we assembled can help this industry, and the people that affiliate with us have better businesses, whether you're a broker, or whether you're an agent or a team lead.
Yeah.
And I wake up every day with that, after I do my 50 squats.
You said you've listened to the podcast and you've listened to some of my past guests. Anyone you want to talk to, like out of all those guests, who should give you a call?
I love Glenn Sanford.
Yeah.
Love him. I love the way his brain works. He's a gentleman. He's a good dude. I really like him. And this is not to say I don't like other people. I just think his strategic thinking and the way he approaches things I'm comfortable with. I disagree on certain of the model, that they've deployed, but therein lies the fun of competition, right? So we're going to compete, they're going to compete, and he's a very smart guy. I love that. I respect his intellect and his thoughtfulness about the way he approaches things. There's an obscure gentleman who used to run Century 21, and I cannot for the life of me remember his name right now, so clearly I don't have a great relationship. He runs a company, or he's attempting to do a little bit of a consolidation play named Carnes, or Cans. Rick is his first name. I apologize, Rick. I don't remember your last name. I spent a little bit of time with you. That's fun to talk to him because he's trying to change things, and he's got, good vision and everything.
Yeah.
I think what I would ask if I was going to talk to, and I know most of the other folks that run the brands, not very well. I tend to not attend very many industry events. Not that they're not great, and I love the people that put them together, and I think it's very beneficial. I think and this is, okay, so let's get off of who do I want to talk to just for a second.
Sure.
Okay, so it doesn't look like I've never seen an industry that there's a lot of not grounding the static, if that makes sense.
So, say more.
Yeah, so there's always static in every industry, right?
Right, like the signal and noise.
Yeah, and it's like, do you ground it, or do you rub your feet across the carpet at a conference and then go touch somebody else and zap them with the static and then do it again and do it again and do it again? And there's a bevy of that going on right now. And, people speculating, pontificating, expressing opinions, and we really try as a management team to ground the static. Let's focus on what's important to our agents. Even in our internal meetings, we have certain ways of doing that in the culture of the leadership team that has really kind of made us a little bit more efficient. When we smell static now, everyone goes, who's grounding it? Who's going to ground the static? Because this is wasted time. We're pontificating and speculating.
What's an example? Aside from the commission lawsuits, what's an example?
What a competitor is doing and whether or not it's really a threat to us.
Oh, okay. So some competitor has launched some sort of AI
whatever
chatbot.
Yeah. It's just, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like, it's superfluous BS. Honestly, it is. It's like, how many hours do you want to sit and talk about something that really, what is the impact to us? The one thing I do think that it's important is assess the environment fast. Get a very accurate bead on what it is, whether it's a competitive move or whether it's a market dynamic or whatever. And then can you do something about it? And choosing not to do anything about it is a decision, and it's a powerful decision. But vacillating your strategies, I'm going to share with your class here in a little bit our 5-year strategic roadmap. And it's atypical to be willing to do that because I know no one, if they got their hands on it, could do anything with it. Because it takes the unique culture that we built and the team that we've assembled to be able to execute on the strategies that are on the map. But we have a 5-year strategic subway map. Make no mistake about it, and we'll tune it and modify it, but we're not testing business models from month to month, year to year, and burning investors' capital. If you look at the return on equity invested in our business and the scale that we've achieved with a relatively modest amount of money, and then you look at the return on equity with many of the public companies, and it is notably different. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not picking a fight with anybody. I'm just saying, it just is what it is.
Yeah. No.
How did you deploy the capital and what was the resultant outcome?
Yep.
You report on this. What do you think? I know people know because you're probably, but what do you think?
I've heard the phrase bad steward of capital quite a lot of times when talking about some of these businesses.
Yeah. And what I don't understand is how, especially in a public setting, that forecast and projections can be provided over and over again, only not to be achieved. It's perplexing to me. And then you look a little bit deeper, and I'm not trying to get nerdy, but you look at the amount of institutional capital, the players that are in that institutional capital, and then you look at how much equity is held by the insiders, which I think is important. It's one of the reasons why EXP, I'm kind of keen on EXP, is because, there's a lot of the shares are held by people that run the business and or founded it. Yep. You start getting into some of these other public companies, there's, less than 5%. And that's typical if you're a totally scaled, mature business. I understand that, right? Because years and years ago, the founders are gone, the founder shares are gone, there's equity that's being awarded to strong management. But when you see that get too low, it's problematic. Are you getting just paid to, anyway, I'll stop there.
Yeah.
But again, what I want to make sure that people understand is I'm not saying I think there's a lot of very kind, very smart people solving problems every day in this industry. I just think one of the things that has been interesting is where that capital has flowed and how it's performed. And I think that's there's a reckoning,
I don't get the public markets. I don't understand it. So I'm a big fan of the comic Calvin and Hobbes. I'm reading it right now. And, my favorite game out of there is Calvinball, right? And the one rule of Calvinball is there are no rules.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep track of what the rules actually are in the public markets now.
Yeah.
Is it profitability? Is it EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA? Is it cash flow? Is it growth? Yes. All of the above.
All of the above.
And
it vacillates, right?
Yeah. Well, that's today. And then tomorrow it's going to be different. And it's constantly changing. It's very hard to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening and what's important.
Yeah. And you have to be aware of it. But in the long run, which we're playing for the long run, the long game is you just have to have one hell of a business that has solid margins, that's fair. We have this concept called mind the gap. I know if anyone's ever been to London, they have the mind the gap, so you don't stick your foot in between you and the subway. We mind the value gap. And so we're constantly remeasuring what is the value to agents that we're delivering and what's the cost of affiliation? What's the cost of being part of us? So we do two things simultaneously. We try to drive their cost of operations, their cost of affiliation down. At the same time, we're adding important value elements to drive. So there's a wider and wider gap. When it gets compressed, you start having attrition, you start having bad things happen. So there's this absolutely just intense focus on minding the gap. Are we maintaining, because then you can scale and your margin percent might come off a bit, but your margin dollars continue to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, and I think it's a fair way of approaching our engagement with our affiliates.
No, I like the phrase.
Mind the gap, baby.
That's good. Yeah. I've asked a couple of my past guests this, and I'd like to ask you too, this idea of play areas, right? We get the, business as usual, operating the business, but what are some things you're doing where you're playing around? Like, what are your biggest play areas right now?
Do you want me to give you one that everyone says AI?
Yeah.
We're playing in AI, and AI is this. I mean, come on.
Don't say AI.
Don't get me wrong. Of course, AI is I like something that's a derivative of AI. So I think Microsoft is brilliant, and I love what people are doing when they talk about co-piloting, right? I think that's a brilliant way to put it. But there's still a pilot, So we, of course, we're looking at that. I think, let me think about a sandbox. I think there are lanes of education in training, education, development. I'm purposely trying to do one that isn't in the status quo hub at all the events, okay? Everyone talks about core education, this, that, and that, but I think there are some genuine opportunities for agents, especially with the changing market dynamics, where because of their skill and knowledge about real estate, where we can provide them training, education, development, and systems to allow them to individually fairly enter the market of resi investment, for example. And you see bigger pockets in some of the other companies that have come out and they've said, hey, we're going to educate you. You can buy all of our books and da-da-da, and they have a business model. But wouldn't it be cool if a brokerage went all in and said, We think that we can provide training, education, development for any agent, any cohort of agents that wants to use their license, their knowledge about the market and everything else, and wants to prepare for retirement, by having a few rental properties, multifamily or otherwise. So that's in our sandbox, and you'll see it in our subway map.
Okay.
Like pretty deep, actually.
Yeah.
You're going to dig it.
I can't wait.
Yeah, you're going to like
awesome.
it.
That's awesome.
I think that's a cool one. I think that, a lot of people have tried to come at the whole, well, we're going to give you an opportunity to invest in our stock. And again, going back to, I think Glenn has done a great job of that. I think it's changed over time as the stock performance has moved from here to there, and as it should, right? What worked in the early days, might need to be modified, and if anyone can do it, he'll do it. But I do think that their financial wellness, we've done a lot recently with financial wellness. We partnered with Dave Ramsey's organization, and we bought seats for all of our agents, all 22,000 of them, on the Ramsey platform for no cost to the agent.
Yeah.
We don't make any money on it. Zero.
Yeah.
But we want them, when they get their commission check, to say, hey, am I getting my financial house in order? And then as an extension, unfortunately, I'm not able to yet disclose who it is, but it's a huge fiduciary. Let's just say it's multi-$100 billion in their fiduciary. So it's about your estate planning, your will. Are you properly insured? It's a financial planner, but it's a fiduciary, not a broker. They're partnered with brokers. And then furthering that, which is not necessarily novel, is the health share program with Clearwater. I'm just going to say who it is. Hey, all brokers out there, if you're listening to this, Clearwater has a great program, and there's a health share. And then if they can't, after consultation, if they can't get in. And it's a wonderful way to say, what's the number one reason why people's finances go upside down as they approach retirement? It's they're not properly insured. So I think financial wellness overall, and then helping the agents responsibly potentially invest in the very thing they know the most of, but still have incredible diversification and cash flow, even ones that never thought, well, I really don't want to do the fix and flip. It's not really fix and flip, it's fix and hold, resi investment, multifamily, as part of a group or individually. I think there's a lane of development, and that's a sandbox we're playing in.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't
Interesting.
think anyone else is doing it. But
No.
know what? Look, honestly, I want all the agents, whether they're with us or someone else, to kick ass.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Good. No, we're not regulated. I don't think we're regulated by anybody.
Not yet.
There's no big red button here. We're not on a time delay.
Yeah, so that's a fun sandbox.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last question I got for you. If I gave you $100,000 and said, build a business in real estate starting today, what would you do?
I'd probably start, I would assemble some incredible people, and I would start, I know it sounds like I'm just feeding it back into us. I think we have a great business model. I would probably find a market where, especially one where the flat fee model hadn't been deployed, because there are still some left out there. And I would start it and grow it where the agent count and transaction count is sufficient enough for you to get scale. And I would grow that business if it had to be in real estate. And then I would use that to get into ancillary businesses. And I'm not talking about the traditional four horsemen. I mean, those, everyone, if you have an opportunity to get enough scale, go into title, whatever, JV, whatever approach you want to take. I'm talking about what I was just saying. Work with your agents to take that market data and play in a very localized game for residential rental, short-term rental stuff. I would probably get into that, but I'd start a broker if you said I had to be in the real estate industry.
In real estate.
Yeah. That would be it.
What's the adjacent in short-term rental? Say more about.
Yeah. So like, again,
is that the bigger pockets kind of, we're going to work?
No, this is a little bit different.
Okay.
So this is the Airbnb play, but a lot of major markets, because of the lobbying from hotel groups and everybody else, are trying to pull the rug out from under them. But I do think there's a short-term rental. There's a lot of areas out there where you can buy a property, you can build equity in that property, and you can rent it, put it in a rental pool. And I think there's a play to own multiple of those and build wealth. And there's financing that's available.
And if you're starting as a brokerage and you're narrowing in on there, what is that? Is that empowering the agents at the brokerage to do it? Yeah.
So if you have 400 or 500 agents or 50 agents, and you say, folks, if you find something, we'll underwrite it. And we have some financing partners that are on call. We'll underwrite it independently. And then we'll help you actually get to the closing table. And then there's dividends that come out in the form of quarterly distributions, or the rent gets collected, the reserves are protected.
So this is not the agents helping other people do this. This is the agents doing it for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's, and again, within the construct of legalities, right?
Sure.
You have to proper disclosure, et cetera. I think the agents are best equipped to know they just need a little bit of help. And there's databases where you can say that 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Aspen. And again, I hate to use everyone likes to use these like posh markets, forget Aspen, in outside of Salida, Colorado. Okay. Not as posh. Beautiful place. Buena Vista, Salida. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. You said for a reason.
Buena Vista.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. Appropriately named.
Yes.
I can, you're going to ski at Monarch. You can wear jeans. Seriously.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about if you've been there. I love it. I love it because it's real people, having enjoying with their families. It's not crazy overpriced. You can buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and you can probably get X number of nights of rent. Here's your ARR. We're going to underwrite it, and that's a good investment, and your family can enjoy it. So you're trying to change the lives of the people. I think our agents are best equipped, and all agents, whether they're with United or they're with someone else, I think we're underplaying that as an industry. There's a lot of people that are not in the industry that have capital, and having capital, there's plenty of capital if you can underwrite the property, and responsible leverage so you don't get upside down, enough equity. So you close 5 or 6 deals, make 50, 60 grand, whatever it is. And then try to, if you have your financial house in order, put it in a property, whether it's short-term rental or whether it's more of a permanent rental. I think the industry owes it to our agents. They've invested so deeply in being knowledgeable and very, very capable. And I'm not just talking about United agents. I'm talking about all of them. Man, there's some incredible people out there flying whatever flag.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you asked me a question earlier, so I had to go back. There is one person that I've met since I've been in the industry, which I cannot get enough of, and that's Dave Liniger.
Oh, yeah.
God, man, that guy, he is a battle-hardened, just incredible. I just love what he did, and I love what he built.
Yeah.
And there's something about that guy I just really appreciate.
That's good to hear. Maybe we can grab him and get him on the podcast.
Boy, you would,
that'd be fun.
Yeah, hell yeah. He'll bring his big dog in here.
All right, Dan, that's it for us, time-wise.
Okay.
Really engaging conversation. Thank you. Yeah, so this is Context. I'm Mike Del Prete. If you want to find more podcasts or information, you can check out my website, mikedp.com, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.